Connect with the natural world around you. Welcome to Nature Bound, a podcast dedicated to unpacking the intrinsic bond between humans and nature. We'll uncover the benefits of spending time outdoors, including how a nature-centric lifestyle can improve your mental health, elevate your leadership skills, and unleash your creativity. And now here's your host, outdoor enthusiast, and renowned author of The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to the Nature Bound podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Rose, and today I have a remarkable guest, Shannon Stowell, as the CEO and founder of the Adventure Travel Trade Association. Shannon has spent nearly 2 decades championing responsible tourism, advocating for the vital intersection of commerce, conservation, and community. With a background in environmental science and extensive experience in international business development, just influencing the travel industry, he's transforming it into a force for good. From serving on global sustainability boards to giving TEDx talks on responsible travel, Shannon has positioned himself as a leader in the field. Today, we'll delve into his insights on sustainable tourism, the power of nature, and explore how we can collectively make a positive impact. Shannon, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Well, so how long have you been working with the Adventure Travel Trade Association?
So I joined as a member in 2002. I worked in the outdoor recreation industry for 6 years before I came here, but I started leading the organization in 2004. And so in April, we'll hit 22 years.
Well, that's a pretty good run. I'm curious how many trips you've been on with member organizations over the last 22 years.
I don't know that I can answer that without a lot of thought, but well, probably, I don't know, probably if you count even some of the smaller trips, maybe close to 100.
Wow.
Definitely a lot of time in the field with amazing members of the ATTA.
Yeah, well, that's I'm sure that's quite a treat for you to be able to spend that many trips with it all over the world.
Absolutely. No, I feel super fortunate to be able to serve in the space that I do.
Now, with your background in environmental science and as in the travel industry, how do you see that in terms of the role of supporting humans and the humans' psychology as we kind of figure out how to balance technology and AI and social media and the human brain and the human processes? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question and a big one too. You know, I think for me personally, there's no experience that's more restorative, more centering than getting out into nature. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a trip planned a year ahead with 10 nights out. It can simply be an hour or 45 minutes away from the desk, away from digital, ideally in a place where your cell phone doesn't work, where all of a sudden you're just in nature. And I once in a while I will listen to a podcast when I walk my dogs in the woods.
Yeah.
I usually don't do it though, because I've just realized that having that distraction, you know, there's so much distraction already going on during our lives, during our days, that I really try to take that time to just be quiet and observe and pay attention to what's going on around me in nature. And somehow it's restorative. And we get out of balance really quickly because, you know, if we look at the deluge of information that pours into us now compared to say 30 years ago, it is
Sure.
on an orders of magnitude.
Yeah, it is. It's tens of thousands of messages a day that we're getting hammered with, and some of it by choice, and some of it not by choice. Um,
Mhm.
Now, through the ATTA, are there trips that families can go on, or is this strictly like an adults program?
Oh no, there's there's everything, and a lot of our members have specific divisions or trips, or there are even companies that focus primarily on family. And multi-generational is a huge growth sector within the adventure travel industry. So no, families. I like to say that in the broadest sense of the term, accessible. That adventure travel is truly accessible. You know, people tend to immediately think, "Oh, adventure! I'm not an adventurer. I don't wrestle grizzly bears or climb ice faces in Alaska." I like to remind people that 80% of our members offer hiking, trekking, or walking. And so when people think adventure, sometimes it goes a little too extreme, where we say it's the intersection of nature, culture, and activity. So when you have all three of those, you've got a core adventure trip, but it could look really different for my mother than it does for my younger brother, for example.
For sure.
Pretty hardcore
So,
adventure.
so just take me through that a little bit. I'm familiar with back roads and some of the bicycle trips or hiking trips that they do. But what's kind of if let's say back roads is a 4 or 5, 6 for adventure, right? It's supported. You could stay in the hotel and you can go to the spa if you want, or you can go cycling for the day. What are kind of some of the things that are easier than that, and then what are some of the things that are maybe more on the extreme end in terms of your members?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go out on a bit of a limb here and say that extreme tends to not be a part of our world. You know, we've had some of the companies that take people to Everest Base Camp, but what we've found over many years is the customer that's looking for that kind of experience is different than the customer that most of our members are serving. I wouldn't say all, because there's always nuances and shades.
Sure.
But there's also companies now who are figuring out ways to accommodate. Let's say there's a family of 6 with let's say it's 3 generations that are going to go on a trip, and they're going to go cycling.
Yeah.
Well, now there are companies who can say, okay, if you are fit and you are a serious cyclist, you know, we can accommodate you. If you want to travel as a family member with that fit person, but you're feeling intimidated by the length or the steepness of the daily ride, we've got e-bikes.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have van support, you know, so if they're, you know, if you get to, basically, don't be afraid to come on these trips. We know how to deal with all different ranges of skill sets, and we know how to read that in advance too, and mitigate. So, you know, we've got members who we've had over the years members that do really intense trips. I don't remember the name of the company, but there was one that was doing 6-month tip to tip of South America motorcycle tours.
Oh, wow.
And and I do remember them saying by the end of the trip, people are either friends for life or they never want to see each other again.
Yeah, it's a long time through a lot of challenges on a trip like that.
That's right. So, you know, there are river rafting companies that will
Mhm.
offer pretty intense rafting experiences where you're doing class 4, you know, some pretty intense water. You're going to want people who have some training and ability. And then there's floats. You know, I took my young children when they were young on a float with oars on the Green River, and it was
Nice.
magical and transformational and just a really special time with my kids.
And so, yeah, from extreme motorcycle trips to a regular rafting trip, it sounds like, and then kind of everything in between there.
Yeah, and I would say that culture, Emmanuel, is a huge part of the deal now. So,
Okay.
you know, you could choose there's a company called Context Tours that always has professionals like professors or philosophers or artists who lead these trips. And so, you can have this cultural experience in France and have that be, very genteel. You're learning a lot of really interesting things. And then I've traveled with one of our members called Explore Mesopotamia in Iraq. And then you're doing Kurdish culture in the north.
Yeah.
And that is an intense but amazing trip. So there's also, even on the culture scale, there's a whole spectrum from really, really wild, intense, not many people do it, to very accessible.
I love that. And for people with the kids, how important is it for them to get trips with their kids where they're going and doing outside activities like this?
Well, I'll hit that from two angles. I think it was REI who did a study a number of years ago. It could even be 2 decades old, where they did a study to determine what makes somebody more inclined to be outdoorsy and to be protective of the outdoors when they grow into adulthood. And I don't remember the exact age, but basically there was some sort of cutoff age where if a kid had not been in an outdoors environment, even just a simple hiking, a day hiking or an afternoon hiking, that they were very unlikely to ever feel any affinity towards the outdoors. And that being inside playing video games or being in an urban environment that's all they wanted. They did not want to be on a trail. They did not want to be in a tent. They did not want to go and sit at the side of a lake and watch the mountains. And their plea was, if you live in a neighborhood and of a kid who's got is being raised by a single mom who's just stretched with work and no time, get that kid into the outdoors, because you're creating a life of joyous experiences for them. You're creating that platform for them, and somebody who's more likely to be protective of the environment and of local cultures, for example. So that's one way I would take it. The other way, I'm going to use my son as an example. My son is now a lawyer for a branch of the military, and his entire motivation is to make the world a better place. His heart is in the right place. He's got amazing values. And at one point I did ask him in his journey when he was going through law school, I said, hey, why did you decide to go this route? Because you've never really been clear about that. You had different aspirations, and now you're on a very specific and very intense path. And he said, a lot of it was because of the travel that I did. Uh-huh. He said, as a teenager, you took me to Iraq, and I got to see the scale of human misery and conflict, because we went to some refugee camps when we were there. It was during the final pinchers on ISIS in Mosul. Wow. And so he was really affected by that. We hung out with some of the kids in the refugee camp. And then the same year, he ended up going with his youth group to the killing fields in Cambodia.
Wow.
And so it changed him. It just absolutely put him on a different trajectory in life, and a good one, really good one. So, travel has this power, and it hits people differently, and it depends on what they do. Like for example, and I'm sure you have observed this too, if somebody books a trip into an all-inclusive resort, really just like almost closes the gate, the drawbridge.
Yes.
So that all the revenue and all the experiences happen inside one, the walled city.
Yeah.
Are they going to be really deeply impacted? I would argue no.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
There could be some impact, sure. But then you take the opposite kind of trip where you're with a local guide and you're going through local communities and you see beautiful, amazing, wonderful things, and you see horrifying, shocking, hard to fathom things.
Yeah.
You walk out of that and you have to be a different person, and it affects you when you go back home.
Yeah.
So I think travel is just incredibly vital for young people's experience. And getting in the outdoors as well.
I agree. I think you're combining two things in the organization that are impactful. Like you're discussing the first times when I went to Asia and go and stand in Shanghai and see 30 million people all living in the same city, and try to understand how to get around and how that relates to my life back home is way different than going to Cancun and staying in an all-inclusive resort and and drinking beer by the pool, right? So
well, and no aspersions on that. I did that with
no,
my kids. I've done the all-inclusive. I know the outcome difference between the
for
two.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I see those as like as international travel like that is big, expansive things, and it helps you with your values clarification. And then the time in the nature is the consistent feed, right? The getting out and go into the outdoors with your dogs and actually not listening to a podcast. I love that, and I go back and forth on that too. Sometimes I'm really focused, but most of the time I want to get fed by the natural vibe, not by culture and electronics.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a beautiful combination of things. We did a lot of this. I grew up in the Central Valley of California, and we ran a summer camp where we took kids that were on camper ships who'd never been outside before, and we took everybody backpacking for 3 days and 2 nights. 7-year-olds went backpacking, right? All the way to teenagers. So and then it changes the perspective, and it makes advocates out of people who otherwise would not be for wild spaces. So I appreciate that also.
For sure.
Now you have been on lots of trips. Just tell me one of your favorite trips and why it's memorable for you.
I mean, I'm going to refer to the trip to Kurdistan, which was actually it was a combination of Jordan and Kurdistan.
Okay.
And both absolutely incredible destinations for different reasons, and really suffering right now because of the extended conflict in Gaza.
Yeah.
It obviously, anytime something like that happens in a region, there's a halo effect, and it hits everybody who's working in that area. But the trip to Kurdistan, I think what makes Kurdistan especially amazing and special is it's not overrun, not yet. Some of the conflict that's been not only within the region but within the country has kind of put it on most travelers' no-go list.
Right.
But we have a member who's an amazing tour operator and has run trips for, I think he's coming up on 3 decades there with a spotless record. And so you get to deep dive into a place that you're not going to find a McDonald's or a Starbucks or a Wendy's or anything like that. It is very much Kurdistan. That's going to change. I'm sure it changes everywhere. But the kindness of the people, I honestly was nervous. But the people were incredibly kind. We got offered tea multiple times per day. People just wanted to talk. They wanted to hear our stories. They gave us gifts. We gave them gifts. We learned. We heard horrific stories and, stuff that makes you go home and just realize how fortunate you are that your life, your problems don't mean much.
Yeah.
Which is part of that whole perspective thing, right?
Absolutely.
So I think Kurdistan is definitely one of those, and I've been there twice, and the first time was 2009, so it was even a little more off grid. But we just did our Adventure Travel World Summit for travel trade in Patagonia and Puerto Natales, Chile.
Nice.
And just having time at the base of Torres del Paine, I mean, it is so awe-inspiring just to see it. We didn't have time because we were doing a post-event meeting with our executive team, but we did a couple of small hikes and got to go look at Torres del Paine, which by itself is this just majestic experience. So, those are a couple of things that come to mind. A Great Wall of China experience that I had a long time ago, where I found a guide and I said, I don't want to go where there's 200,000 school children and tourists
right,
shoulder to shoulder. And she said, well, that part of the wall is much rockier and much harder to get through. I'm like, perfect.
Yes.
Let's do that. So I got to do miles of the wall and didn't see a soul.
Wow, that's cool.
And that was amazing. And that's what I always tell people is try to find a good tour guide or tour operator who can take you to give you access to things that you would never figure out. You would never be able to figure out. Sure, use your AI. You're still not going to find some of these things.
Sure.
So I'm a huge advocate of working with good guides and good tour operators to make the experience just wildly better than it would be otherwise.
I love it. And then is part of what the ATTA does, is it to help people find the right tour to go on, or how do you deal with the end user or the consumer?
Yeah. We have a website that's www.adventure.travel.
Okay.
I know I shouldn't say www, but I grew up in the first days of e-commerce and I can't shake that habit. So adventure.travel is the website. That's the one that we have that faces the traveler, the end user, where you can go on and there's probably several hundred of our members who are listed on there, and trips and types of trips and destinations all over the world. But a lot of that, that's a small part of what we do. The biggest part of what we do is working with the trade. We help connect the buyers and the sellers of travel experiences. So if you're booking with a company in say Seattle for a trip to Africa, there's two parties there. There's generally sometimes the same company owns both, but that's not typical. So you've got this outbound American company that's going to be working with an African company, like say Volcanoes Lodges and Safaris in Uganda and Rwanda. And so sometimes there's other people selling that. So we work to make those connections. We also bring a lot of knowledge resources to the table for safety, risk management, sustainability, marketing, all these business skills that every little business or every business needs in the adventure travel industry. Because our goal really is to professionalize and grow the space, because we believe in it. We believe it's missional, that it's built to support and protect wildlife and people and places.
Wow, well, I definitely appreciate that mission, and appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got an amazing team. That's how we can do it, and board and community and members. So it really is it is a true community that works together.
That's great. I'll have the website in the show notes. If people are thinking about trips, they can go and check that out. And the wrap up question I have for you is what trip is left on your bucket list?
Well, there's a few. Mongolia in the right season, in spring or fall.
Yeah.
I've been to Mongolia in the winter and it was amazing and gorgeous, but it made me really want to go back and experience it when the sun is out and the ground is not knee deep in snow. But that being said, the winter experience was incredible as well. It's the first time I've heard wolves.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we were just out hiking and all of a sudden the guide's like, listen, there's wolves howling. I was like, wow, that's incredible. And then, Antarctica, I've never been. I would love to do that. And then I have unfinished business in Svalbard, the archipelago up in northern Norway.
Okay.
My dad.
Well, you got to return a library book or something?
My dad and I went there to do a 7-day trip that would circumnavigate the archipelago.
Okay.
And in the second hour of the first day, there was a catastrophic engine failure in the ship.
Oh, wow.
The company said, we've never had this happen before, and it is not fixable.
Oh,
and
wow.
So the trip was over before it really even began. And so that's been nagging in the back of my head to try to go back and do that, especially since my dad has since passed. And so I sort of feel like for personal reasons too, I need to go complete that.
I love it. Wow, that is an important thing to carry his memory forward. So two amazing trips, and I hope you take them both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Shannon, I really appreciate your time. I'm grateful that you would be on the show, and really do appreciate the work that you're doing at the Adventure Travel Trade Association. And I hope that you continue to do well, and that the association continues to prosper.
Thank you so much, Manuel. I'm honored that you would ask me to be on this.
All right. Well, we'll see you again soon.
Sounds
you,
great. Thank you.
Yep. Well, there's a few things hopefully that we could trigger from this episode. One is to remember to plan big, and think about some of the things in the world that are interesting to you, and the wild places or adventures that you'd like to go on, hiking or biking or river rafting or just camping and seeing a river pass you by. And remember to, if you got kids in your neighborhood or in your life that aren't getting outside, that you find a way to either get them outside or buy the can of peanuts when they come by to pay for their campership. I hope you found value in my conversation with Shannon Stowell today. I definitely enjoyed it, and also hope that you take some time to make some goals about travel and get out on a migration at some point, either through a paid tour or something in your local area, and that you make time every week to get outside, get away from the screens, and experience nature. This is Emmanuel Rose, Nature Bound.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Nature Bound. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's episode, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to purchase your copy of The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock at emmanuelrose.com or on Amazon. We thank you again for joining us